Hi, I'm Brenda Wood, and I am here with Erin Burt, and she has done time in the feds, and I'm going to let her tell you guys a little bit something about herself. The things that I want to encourage here with people watching is that inmates are people too. They've done their time, and now they are considered to be ex-cons, which I think if you've already done your time, you shouldn't be an ex anything anymore. Nobody likes to be the ex-wife or the ex-girlfriend or the ex-husband or the ex-stepchild. It's no different for people who are incarcerated. So with that, I'm going to introduce Erin. She is a person. She's not a number, and she has a story to tell. So Erin, tell us a little bit about you.
My name is Erin Burt. I am from a small town in northern Iowa. I am 41 years old. I have a almost 18-year-old son. He was 8 years old when all of this story part of my life began. I have a great job today. I am grateful for everything that I went through to get to this point, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you whatever you'd like to know.
That's wonderful because we want to educate people about the entire process. There's good to it, there's bad to it, there's justice, there is injustice. And I just want to get the word out, maybe get some politicians involved, trying to see what kind of laws we can change, some for the better, some for the worse. You know, it just depends. Everything changes, especially with the state of our country right now, with it being still during COVID and after a nasty election. But one of the things I want to ask you is, how did you feel when you first got indicted?
I was absolutely terrified. Absolutely terrified. Definitely not something that I had planned for my life. Did not see myself going down the road that I went down. But I got there by the choices that I made, and I had to go through it. It was absolutely terrifying, but it's made me stronger.
Now, did you self-report, or were you out on bond, or did you have to go through the whole holding facility first? What happened?
Um, I was actually indicted in June of 2012, but for several months before that, I held state charges and never actually was officially charged. So the state dropped my charges, the feds picked me up.
That happened.
Um, yep, I went for my initial hearing. I was out for 3 months and went back, and I was taken into custody that day.
Okay, so you stayed in custody pretty much
Yep,
right after your hearing.
yep.
Talk about what your family went through when all this happened.
Um, it was, I'm from a very small community, population 3,000, and my family is very known in this community, and it was very embarrassing for my family. Um, my son had to change schools.
That's
Uh,
unfortunate.
Yep, and that was not because of the community or whatever. His dad lived in another town, so he obviously went to his dad. So there was my family paid a lot of consequences for my choices when I went to prison.
And a lot of people don't realize that the family gets incarcerated too. You might not be behind bars, but you go through it. You know, you suffer
Absolutely.
the embarrassment, you suffer the same type of things that we go through. The sad part is they also get looked upon badly,
Absolutely.
and it's from your actions, from what you did for the crime. But it doesn't necessarily mean they're bad people, and it doesn't
Right.
mean that you're a bad person. You just did something that you shouldn't have done. So
Yep.
talk to me about prison life. When you went in, did you have a job? Did it pay well? Did your money on your books come from your family or from your job? Talk to me about what happens in prison with money, because people think you get 3 hots and a cot and that life is going to be good and everything's free. And that's not always the case.
You don't have money coming in from the outside. I did have a job, but my job was also education. So it was a vocational trade, and I made 12 cents an hour.
Wow.
And yeah, big dollars, 12 cents an hour. So um, I I was fortunate enough to have somebody on the outside that regularly put money on my books and made my life as comfortable as it could be in theirs. And most women do not have that. It is very meager living.
It is. And 12 cents an hour doesn't even pay for your personal hygiene, does it?
No, absolutely not. It does not. No. The things on commissary are the same price as they are out on the street, and it's expensive if you want to buy things off a commissary. And yeah, it is not just all given to you.
Now,
You
what
have to
was
purchase.
exactly, what was the food like?
Okay, so I was in Wasika and we had pretty decent food there,
I've heard their
but
food is decent.
it is decent. And I got lucky in that aspect, but I a lot of meals weren't that great, honestly. They weren't. They were cooked by, yeah, they weren't great, but it was okay. Yeah.
Now, was it repetitive? Was it the same menu all the time?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It was, I think, a 3 or 4 week revolving menu. So we had pizza on the fifth Wednesday of every month. We had burgers, I think, on Tuesdays. So, somebody's leaving, I've got 3 wake ups and a burger day or something like that. It was the same
Mhm.
menu. Yep.
And what did you say your job was again? What is it that you did?
I was actually in horticulture. So I worked in the greenhouse and I learned all kinds of, there was 3 college graded certificates that you could earn in that program. And I did go through all 3 of those programs, but it was also considered my job. So
Is that 8 hours a day
yep,
for 12 cents an hour? 8 hours a day for 12 cents an hour. She lost connection there for a minute, but she'll come back on. And not even enough money to buy her hygiene, her soap, her shampoo, conditioner, uh, toothbrush, toothpaste, all of that is very expensive in there. You
yep.
froze out, so I had to come back on. So, are you doing anything in horticulture now? Were you able to use what you did in there for the outside?
Not in the community that I'm at. I came back to the same small town and there really isn't anything here for me to use that with. Um, I could possibly go to a couple area communities and maybe do some landscaping. But the benefits and things just aren't there for me comparing to the job I have now. So I do have my little house plants that I tinker around with, and I do take a lot of pride in that. I do have a lot of knowledge in that stuff, but as far
So it
as
gave you a
using
nice
that,
hobby.
yes, it did. Yep, for sure.
So what was your hustle in there? Everybody has a hustle.
Well,
Erin,
I would bring back cilantro to the unit, and that was a nice addition to our on-unit meals. So
that's
I
good.
really didn't have a hustle
So
I
no
didn't do that.
drawing or creating things or beading or crocheting or anything like that.
I tinkered with some of that stuff, but I never did it for gain. I just tooled around with it a little bit for myself, trying to keep my mind busy, really.
Yeah, and you
Yep.
did 3 years.
Yep. I did 3 years.
What was it like the coming months to get out? You're preparing to come back into society. What goes through your mind?
I was obviously excited, but I was kind of nervous for what I was coming back into. I had been in a long-term relationship, unhealthy relationship when I went in, and I went through a lot of changes in the time that I was away, and I was really hesitant about coming back into that because I didn't know really how much they had worked on themselves. And so I was kind of scared to get out and go back into that and be able to be strong in my recovery. I was obviously I had 37 months clean because I was in prison, but I really only worked on myself.
It doesn't happen right away when you go in, does it? I think it takes time. She's froze out again, so she's explaining about when she comes out of uh, incarceration? What is her mind going through knowing that she is getting ready to be released back into the community? So you froze up. So go ahead and pick back up where you left off.
Yeah, it is a complete mindset. And I was going back into a situation and going to be around people who didn't necessarily have my goals and focus in mind as far as not using. My crime is a drug charge. So I was coming back into that, and I was very nervous about it. I was very excited, but I was very nervous.
So as a drug charge, I'm assuming you were also a user.
Absolutely.
So how hard was
Very.
that coming back out and being on probation, having to go through reporting to a probation officer, drug testing, trying to find a job, telling them you're not only a felon, but now you are on probation and their boss is probably going to call or come see the job site. Talk to me about that.
Yep, all of that stuff went on. I do have a little bit of a special case though, as far as my job went. The employer that I was with before my indictment actually took me back. So when I was released, I had a job, and I've been there ever since. And that made my transition so much easier. And I know a lot of women do not have that. It is very hard for them, and they do have to face that challenge of finding a job and being a felon and going through that with their employer. I had the benefit of my employer knowing that going in and knowing coming out. So that was a lot easier for me. The reporting to the probation officer and all of that was a huge, obvious life inconvenience. You can't really do anything. I mean, you can, but you can't. There's so many restrictions on what you can do and even who you can talk to. I had one of my best friends was previously incarcerated years before me. We lost touch, but we were both incarcerated together in Waseca. And when she got out, she came back to this town, and we weren't allowed to talk to each other. Even though we worked together, we're both out, but nope, we couldn't associate with each other because
Do
we
you
both
think
are
they do
felons.
that because they're afraid you're going to fall back into the same routine that you were in prior to incarceration?
I do. I think a lot that has very much to do with it, because they want to make sure that you are making those good choices. And if you're going to be around people who previously made the same bad choices, you're more likely to do that again.
That's true, and it's good that you recognize that. Now that
Yep,
you're off of probation, and you said you got off early,
I
you
did.
can now talk to whoever you want.
Correct.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about is what was it like for your child? You said he was 8 when you went in.
He was 8 when I got my charge. He was 9 when I went in. By the time I actually went in, he was 9. Um, it was really, really hard on my child. We were very, very close. And it was hard because he had to rely upon everybody else to be able to come and see me. And he had to fight with his dad to be able to even get time to come and see me. It was very hard for him. Of course, visits in a prison are not family friendly.
No.
Um, that was difficult for us. Hard to enjoy your time. Obviously, you enjoy every single second that you're with them, but it's different. It's not a pleasant scene.
And not really a place for kids.
No.
And
I
he,
will never forget one of probably the third or fourth visit that my son came to see me, and he was 9. He was sitting on my lap, and one of the officers told me that he couldn't sit on my lap during visits anymore because there were child offenders in there, and it was arousing to them, assumingly. So my child couldn't sit
unfortunate,
on my
but it's
lap.
probably true.
Yep.
Mm.
That
Did
was really hard. That was a hard day.
when you got out, I bet it was a hard day. When you got out, were you able to get your son back? Were you and your son's father able to work on a solution that he could re-enter into your life, or was that a struggle?
And can you hear me? Because you're okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yep. When I got out, I continued to have joint custody. So we just picked up, he came to me every other weekend and then every other holiday. And my son was really pushing for me to get our previous custody arrangement back, which before my indictment, we completely split custody 50-50 all the way down the middle. And I wanted to do that, but I was just out and I didn't have the money for an attorney. You know, I wanted to make sure that I was stable enough first. So it was about a year and I did go back to court and the judge heard everything and he did give me more time with Owen, but I didn't get what I was seeking because he's doing good where he is and there wasn't a reason to disrupt his life so much again. So,
and you have to
yeah,
take care of yourself before you can take care of him.
right, correct. Yep. So it has all worked out. We have an amazing relationship now. He'll be 18 in just a couple weeks. So I was just going through my calendar the other day, marking my weekends, and it dawned on me, oh my gosh, I really don't need to mark weekends anymore because he gets to pick where he wants to go now. So
What a blessing.
yeah, for sure.
So now that this is all behind you and you've been out now for 5 years, you've got the same job, you're on your feet. Do you still struggle? Do you still struggle with what people say or how people view you, how you view yourself? Talk to me about that.
You know, I don't.
Good for
I
you.
I don't. I hold my head up high and I hold my head up and I'm proud. I just bought my first home and you
Congratulations.
know, thank you. I learned a lot about myself through all of this. And yes, it was a horrible experience for myself, for my family. But it's something that I needed to go through. I wouldn't be where I am today had I not gone through what I went through. So
So it made you a better person.
it did, yes. And it, even going through all that, I think part of that is why I can hold my head up in this town and not let that stuff bother me. That's something that I learned when I was in prison, was how to let go. And it has totally let me live my life being
It's
able to
good,
do that. So,
especially in a
yeah.
small town because you can't hide.
Yep. And so I've kind of just taken what I've gone through and used it as a positive, and I share my experience. I talk about it with people. Um, I've gone to the community that I work in. I went and shared my story with the 8th grade students there for 3 different classes. Me and another lady did. And I don't know, I'm proud of being able to do that. If I can reach somebody, if they
Absolutely.
can
You
hear
should
my
be
words,
proud. Mhm.
yep, if they can hear something that I have to say and it's going to stick with them and maybe help them make a different choice, I'm happy about that.
Well, you overcome your situation. You have overcame being an addict. You've overcome that lifestyle, and you've totally changed how you view yourself and don't want to go back. And that is definitely something to be proud of. And it is a story to tell, and you need to tell your story. Absolutely. It's
Thank you.
part of who
Yep.
you are, so there's no sense in hiding it. Absolutely. Mhm.
Yep, for sure.
I have a few more questions about while you were incarcerated. I want to ask you about your attorney. Did you have a paid attorney or a public defender?
I
What
had
was
a
that
public
like?
defender. I
And
actually had 2 different public defenders. One dipped out on me right into getting into my case, and I think I could have had a chance with that attorney, but the attorney I had didn't do crap for me.
yeah, I'm sorry that happened. Some are
Yep.
good, some are not.
Yep.
So it was just a question because everybody has a different experience on that. But the majority is that the public defenders are overworked, underpaid, and they just don't have time to care.
Yep. That's how I felt. Like I did not matter.
Yeah, and that's sad. While you were in prison, did you feel like you were just a number, part of a profit?
Um, yeah, pretty much. Yep, I did.
And those
I
feelings are not there anymore, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's good.
Yep.
And you have family support.
I did. I had great family support. I had a packed courtroom the day of my sentencing. I have, even being from this community, I've had a lot of great support from the community even after getting out.
Good.
Kind of uh, coming out on top of the struggle, I think, is a lot of that too. So,
Absolutely.
yes, I do have a great support system here, and I'm very blessed for that.
If somebody doesn't have that support system, what would their life be like?
Very difficult, very difficult. I would have been completely alone, and that's not a good place to be when you're coming out of there.
Mhm.
I feel sorry for men who come out and don't have anybody to help support them and just be there for them emotionally and mentally.
Right. Well, if there's
Definitely.
anything you can say to the public or to anybody watching, what would it be?
Uh, yeah, I made bad choices, but I am a damn good person and I deserve a good life. And my child definitely deserves a great life. And, you know, he paid for my choices too, but it didn't have to be as bad as it was for him either.
Right.
I definitely think I would have been somebody who benefited from a intensive treatment program, which I got without the time.
Right. They just
Yep.
want to send you to jail, send you to prison.
Yep.
So, well, don't hang up. When we get off, I'm going to stop recording. But if
Okay.
anybody wants to contact you or ask you, is it okay for me to maybe direct them to Facebook, or where would
Sure.
you like them to contact you at if they want to talk more about their story or need help?
Yep. Facebook would be fine.
Okay, and that's Erin Burt. And thanks
Yep.
for doing the show. I appreciate it, and congratulations on a successful life.
Thank you.